host various talks on topics related to product management. And if you like our community, you can join us on Telegram. And if you like to support us, you can support us on patreon.com. Today, we have Florian with us. He's the co-founder and CEO at Uizard, and he's going to talk about how to democratize the design of design using AI. So I'll hand over to you, Florian.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Let me share my screen. So here we go. So, I can see that the screen does. Are you seeing the wrong side of it? Let me.
You're seeing two slides.
Yeah, exactly. What would be the best way around that? Let me get it. As a good morning presentation, we need to adapt it quickly. I'll create it as a PDF. Here we go. All right.
Super.
So,
that looks good.
Today, I'm going to be talking about democratizing design with AI. So I'll be talking a little bit about the design industry in general, how it's been evolving, and more specifically the app and the web development industry, and then how we are trying to democratize it because we see more and more different profiles interacting within this space, and we feel the need to be able to open up this entire industry to more different professional profiles. So on a high level, still today, we have over 14,000 new websites and over 2,000 new apps being uploaded to the internet on a daily basis. So it is just growing. We're still making apps like there's no tomorrow, and more people are being involved in this process. The process itself seems very easy. Everyone thinks it's the super linear, easy, fast. User has needs. We just lay down the idea. We start creating it. And within just a few minutes, we have a beautiful application and everyone's happy. But in reality, anyone that has worked within this process knows that it's the furthest possible from the truth. You have iterations during every single step. You have communication between different parties, and it ends up with a lot of frustration because a lot of work is being redone and retested. But why is this? Why are we doing so much iteration? Why are we going back and forth? And why can we not come up with the final idea right away? That's because coming up with new ideas has always been difficult. You have a set of problems, but you have no clear solutions from it. It feels very much like navigating a maze for the first time, where to only know if a path leads to a dead end, you need to take that path all the way to the end and then come back and try something else. We've seen over the last year, over the last decade or so, a real shift from designer to engineer ratio over the time. So in the early 2000s, companies were hiring as many developers as possible to then be able to create a more performant application. In the 2010s and onwards, companies realized that at this point, it was more about design. It was more about communicating the experience and translating this experience into the user's mind while he or she was browsing your application. So you can see most notably in IBM, where there's been a shift from one designer for every 72 developer to one designer for every 8 developers. From this, we've come up with new methodologies, design thinking and the design sprint. And these are some that are very popular in the last 2-3 years. So this is very recent. What we've seen in this shift as well is that in the recent years, the audience as well within the entire design sphere or product development of companies has changed. It used to be very focused on purely designers, but now you have the chief of product, you have UX design, you have product managers, user researchers, marketers, domain experts, and the like. They're all involved in this process of trying to make the best application possible for the end users. But the tools, so the tools over the years, it all started with Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop, very popular tools that allowed for beautiful digital design creations. These tools are complex. People spend a lot of years mastering them, learning them, being able to move forward. But they've kind of laid down the foundation of what we know in the tooling of digital design. In the more recent years, we've had Sketch, Figma, and Adobe XD as what they call prototyping tools, but very much design tools, vector design tools that a lot of users started to use to be able to quickly build prototypes and communicate them. But these are all very much still targeted towards designers who have had the experience using Photoshops and the likes. So that's the downside. All these new tools are all focused on designers. But as I just talked about, we see in the 2-3 last years, this shift with design sprints, with design thinking of much more profiles interacting in the ideation phase. So what has happened to all the tooling for all the other professionals who are taking part in this? And that's where I think we need to democratize design. And to democratize design, I like to look at other industries. So first of all, the photography industry, for example. This is an industry that we're all very familiar with. Long time ago, so over 100 years ago, the first photo camera came out, the Kodak in 1888. And at this point, you needed to be an expert just to be able to handle it. It's moved into the first digital camera around 100 years later. Same story, a very professionalized tool, and slowly moving more towards the main market, the larger group of the people. In 2007, the iPhone was released, and that's when we started making the jump. The hardware was there to be able to start democratizing an industry. And this has, with the help of Instagram afterwards, completely democratized the industry that in 2020, we've had over 100 million photos uploaded to the internet. All these pictures, or the vast majority, have been created by non-professionals, or what I mean non-professional photographers. So hobbyists or people that were originally outside of this space. But how has this happened? It's because there's been a great shift, thanks to the technology, from the expert to the mainstream. So the expert needs the high learning curve. It's hard to use, they're focused on it, they do a lot of learnings, whereas the mainstream ones, they simply just want to take a picture. And the technology does all the heavy lifting. So we were thinking, can we use AI, this new technology, which has been evolving over at least 50 years from now, during 2 winters and summers of AI with more funding, less funding. We've now reached the point where the technology, the hardware that we have underneath, we have the computing power to be able to start training these models and actually use them. So we're now meeting the point where the first iPhone was released for the photography, where the hardware is starting to match what we can do on the software side. Looking at different industry, I also decided to look a little bit at how has AI over the last 2-3 years started evolving into the creative industry in general. So not only about app and website building, but any of the creative space. So what we've seen, for example, Jupyter on the music industry, where you can just simply decide what kind of music you want, what kind of genre, what kind of mood you're in, and automatically through AI generates a song that you can use for videos, for example, because this is stock-free song, completely generated at this point, completely new and unique. So you have no rights on it, no nothing. So you could use it for marketing videos, you could use it for background videos and other ones. This is already one of the examples that we've seen in the very recent year. Another one is Prisma, for example, on the image one. It's one that most of you could be familiar with. It's an app on the phone with AI that allows you to instantly change the style with specific photography. If you would want to, for example, as a marketing person or something, modify your background or something, very easy to use. Last but not least, we've also seen Synthesia, a video AI company that manages to do the voice on actors. So what you can do is that you can type a script somewhere just in the chat base, and a voice actor with AI will be speaking that entire text that you've been written down as if this was real in front of you. So you can start using this to present to other people. You can, again, on websites for customer support and other things, make it much more personal. So there we can see that just in the last 2-3 years, thanks to this evolvement in the computing power that we have, and therefore being able to leverage AI much more directly in the everyday use cases, we've seen in the creative industry already a few things shift. So how about the design thinking and the entire app and web development industry? How could we use AI to increase this one and to improve them, to democratize it? So first, if we look at it, we can see on the left side what we consider more the professional tooling. So you have the Photoshops and the like, but also Sketch, InVision, Figma, Adobe XD. Great toolings, but a person does the hard work. Creating a prototype in one of these tools means that you're handling vectors. Creating buttons is made by creating a rectangle, adding a label on top of that, combining them, and naming this as a button. What we need to be able to involve all these different profiles, which are part of design thinking and part of the design sprints as well, is to just create a tool which is specialized for this. Remove all the hard work, make it as easy to use, and target them much more towards all these new profiles. So chief of product managers, and all the likes. And this is where we built Uizard. So, but while building Uizard, we started looking at the workflow. And instead of people needing to adapt to the technology, we decided let's look at how people currently work and let's build a technology around how they are currently working. We've noticed that thanks to also a survey made on a yearly basis, that still nowadays in 2020, nearly 87% of the people, when they have an idea of an app or website, start by sketching on a piece of paper. The brainstorm idea is much easier if it's just hands with a tablet, with a whiteboard, with a paper, you name it. These are all these wireframes, these quick sketches that everyone makes, that everyone can make because everyone has learned to just quickly make a scribble. But these right now are used for a little bit of alignment early on, trying to figure out what's happening. And then afterwards, all of this needs to be recreated into a digital space, because at the end of the day, that's what all these people are doing. They're building an app or website during this process. This is at this point where we reach a dead end, where all the work needs to be redone. And this is where we decided, can we use artificial intelligence to then increase and speed up some of this process? But first, what is artificial intelligence? Because the buzzword is being screamed left and right in the media everywhere. And to be honest, I'm starting to really get a little bit tired of it. It's nonstop. So for us, to be a little bit more specific, what we do is that we leverage machine learning, more specifically deep learning, a subsection within artificial intelligence. And then we use the computer vision, speech synthesis, and natural language processes. What we do with this is that we've created a technology where we can take a hands-on wireframe, we can snap a picture from that and convert it into a digital UI within just seconds. I'll be doing a quick demo afterwards, lifting, and that does the link between all the different profiles. So the complexity is hidden away, the learning curve is very low, and you would have domain experts, UX designers, product managers, and the likes interacting with the UX researcher, with everyone, and then helping with the UI designer and the front-end developer who then continues afterwards with the product. So we really see a world where you could have the people that interact with the consumer-facing side, so product managers and the likes that interact with end users, to then communicate their ideas visually together on a tool with everyone that works on the creation of the actual tool. So the UI designer afterwards and the front-end developers. And all of this with AI. So I think the best way to go around it is to give you a demo, because as we say, a picture is worth 1,000 words, a prototype is worth 1,000 meetings, and a demo is worth more than anything. Jumping into the demo, let me see. Oh, here I've opened the application quickly. Being here, let me quickly. Over here, you can create, so the way we've done it is that we have this system of themes. The themes are very much what we will transform these hands-on wireframes into. It dictates the styling, it dictates the colors and all of these ones. If I can actually just reuse one of the existing ones. If I go into one of them, you can see that you can set colors, typography, fonts, so very much as if you were using a Google Word or something like that. In these cases, is when you have a long document and you're setting, for example, your different headers, that's how you could see these different typographies to be used like. So you have your header, you can style it, you can sell all of these, and you can do this before you even jump into a project. I can change the background color if I want to make it a little bit darker. I can come here, and very easily you can create your theme. From the theme, you can then create your project. So let's quickly, my app, create live with you an app. So we give a quick example screen. I can just remove this. And from here, I can upload a wireframe. So you can log in into the phone. As I said, you can draw on a piece of paper, on a whiteboard. We've even had private beta users drawing in the sand when they were on the beach and snapping pictures from that. For the ease of the demo, I have some wireframes over here, which I can show. These ones, and these are just JPEGs, as you see. And it is very quickly drawn wireframes by myself. As you can see, I'm not a professional designer. It's a quick sketch, lines on straight. Everything is just quick and dirty, but the idea is to just get an idea there. You can take a picture, throw this into the platform, and you'll see live now what happens. So what we've done is that we've trained these models to then look pixel per pixel and recognize what is on the image, the same way a human recognizes this, understand the different components which are laid down over there, and then transform all of this digitally so that we can work upon it and we don't need to focus on all this heavy work, what we consider. Let's see. And so the first one is through. It takes around 20 to 30 seconds, I would say, depending on the amount of elements on the page. But we can see right away that from here, we've gone from this wireframe instantly into this digital product. Same over here. And then we can also see that, for example, on this one, not everything was completely right. My drawing, as I said, was very fast and the AI is not always right, but that's no problem because we've made a very easy editing tool. So from here, I can just modify it, adapt it, and there you go, it's fixed. If I want to change images, because when wireframing, you don't input images, you don't do all of this, you do quick scribbles, this can all be done afterwards within the tool. So what we've done is that we've used AI to do the heavy lifting of laying down all the components, sorting out everything for you, so that us just as product managers can now build upon this. So when we have an idea and that we want to communicate this to a designer, instead of using words, instead of using descriptions and all of this to get there, and then having miscommunications and having up and downs with a designer creating something, spending hours on it, getting frustrated because when he or she gives that back to you, you are not aligned on the process. And again, you get frustrated and it keeps on going. Here you can just have everything with the heavy lifting of the AI, and you can now build upon it. So we've made it as easy as possible to, for example, if this were to be a travel app, we can modify some of the imagery. I'm based in Amsterdam right now, so I'll take Amsterdam as the example. Since it's the pandemic and everyone can travel, I'll bring the traveling of Amsterdam to all of you live. But like here, you can see that we can build a quick travel. This could be the homepage, the different destination, Amsterdam. I can build an interactive flow just within a few seconds. This one goes there, the home goes back, the settings page goes to the settings page. And just like that, you have an application that you can actually test. You can preview it. Here it is, what we've created. Click on it, test it, go again, back to the home page. I like it. And for example, by this point, I decide I need to add a little bit more to it. I can decide to add a new screen and build within the application right away. Add a navigation, add an image, and etc. You understand the idea behind it. The main aim is to simplify all of this as much as possible so that anyone without any experience within tooling in general can just build this as fast as possible and communicate with the same language that everyone is using when communicating for apps and websites, which is the visual language. And that was it. So that's the conclusion. For us, we see this industry moving extremely fast. The web and app development industry is in its infancy still. The internet has only been around for a bit over 25 years, and we see this evolving so fast. Over the last 3-4 years is when we've really seen this shift where much more profiles interact within this design thinking, especially product managers who are leading these teams, who are leading designers, developers, and the likes creating digital products, now need to have the ability to communicate on a visual manner to then align much faster with end clients and also everyone within the team. And that's where we believe that a tool like this one can help move faster. In addition to that, we're extremely excited to see what AI is doing in general to all the other industries around us, and especially the creative industry. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Florian. That was a great presentation.
Thank
so
you.
Now we are open for questions. Do we have any questions?
Yeah, and the audience in Zoom, you're welcome to turn on your camera. If you are okay with that, we will be happy to see your faces. I have a first question. Florian, when do you think it is the right time to start thinking about designs? Like, how soon after I have an idea of application or something I want to make?
Very good question. So it depends very much of the nature of the application that you're making. If it's more about forms and the likes, then it's more about user flows. If it's something that is more on the visual side of it, then it's important to leverage that to communicate your feeling towards the end user. But in my mind, when you have the idea and you have the high level of the idea, jumping into being able to build a prototype and getting something tangible right away would be the first step right after. Also, when starting a startup, you see a lot of people that have a million ideas, but the execution is the part that becomes the heaviest and the hardest. And very often only one or two see the light of day, but also very, very often only one or two make it to a prototype stage. And that's usually the part that once you've created a prototype, you can then start thinking the next step and be like, actually, this is not going to work because of X, Y, Z. Or yes, this is going to work, let's move it forward. So I would recommend to jump into that phase as early as possible.
I'd like to ask you about the integration. So have you thought about this product being a part of some bigger platform?
Very interesting question indeed. So we've looked very much at being able to integrate with, for example, the other design tools, as I talked about, Sketch, Figma, Adobe XD. We realized very fast that to be able to have a fast ideation flow early on in the process, it needed to be within one tool. Having to jump between different tools, then re-uploading a wireframe in hours, converting it, jumping into the other, was just breaking this fast, rapid iteration flow. So what we've done is that we've created the entire tool to take care of the beginning part, the ideation, and then we see it that once everyone is aligned and everyone agrees, a designer can take this and then move into Sketch and then build upon it to move the last few extra 10 pixels to the left, 10 pixels to the left, and really finish and polish the final design. At the same time, we've had previously in the company the ability to export everything right away into front-end code. This is something that we've done a proof of concept of. We've managed to reach it. For example, the original paper written by one of our co-founders was about converting digital UI into front-end code right away. The proof of concept proved to us that we can do it and we can generate clean code. However, right now, since we're helping so early on in the process with the ideation, we believe the code still changes so much with the design adapting along the way of the workflow that it wasn't needed to have the code right now. However, as we keep on evolving, this feature will probably come back into it. And this is, again, one of the ones where you can see that you can build, ideate it, take it forward, and the developers can use something automatically, already a base, automatically generated to move forward.
Thank you, Florian. Do we have more questions? Okay, I have one question. So as a product manager, this tool is pretty amazing. What about as a designer? So what I have read in books, so I've never worked in design, but what I've seen with my colleagues and all, that if you actually provide them with the design, their whole creativity kind of, it slows them down and they feel like, okay, you're just giving me the whole design rather than providing me with some inputs, the business inputs and the stuff. So what do you think from the designer's perspective? How will this tool affect the designer's mindset? Will they...
I think your question is amazing. It's spot on. So what we've seen from designers is we've seen both sides. So the UX designer that very fast handles just dirty wireframes, they welcome it with open arms because they're not the ones that are busy putting the styling and everything within this. This is very much done by the UI designer that takes this very closely to their heart. The way we see it is that the UI designer can set up the theme and everything, meaning that the product manager will only be using the styling created by these designers. So it will transform into that. But last but not least, when we convert everything, we have all these components on a single level. What we can do from then is that we can, within a second, change all the styling. If we've set up a new theme, then we can do that. And another one is that we can disable all the styling as well. I didn't show you that live in the demo. We can just click a button and everything comes back to lines and wireframes and the likes. So for example, if your purpose is to communicate a user flow to your designer, then you can just click that and the design is not affected by the styling and not frustrated by that. If you're trying to communicate to a designer more an idea that you have around styling, and we all know that at this stage it's ideation, it's an idea. So it's about communicating to that other person. You can use the styling and the designer will react to it and give feedback accordingly.
Okay, that's good.
So it's but it's a very good question, definitely.
Thank you. So let's see, do we have any questions in the YouTube? No. Okay. So maybe one more question. So there could be, because of all this interaction between different kind of team members, there could be some conflicts. Do you know, like, did you face any situation like this? Because we are like, okay, so generally in a company, we work as product managers and the whole product team works together. But when you, as a product manager, if I'm telling you, okay, this is the design, and the designer is saying something, and then the engineers are like, maybe we can have something other than that. So how do you manage that particular conflict in real life? Did you face any situation like this?
That's a very great question as well. And absolutely, every time you bring more different profiles and especially people with great ideas together, it can move everywhere. Because again, back to all the way at the beginning of the presentation, finding solution is simply difficult. It takes time, it's complex. How do you mitigate this? You try to, for example, thanks to a design sprint, have all these different profiles interact together in a very structured phase so that together they can move towards a common goal. Rather than having everyone brainstorm on their own and then coming and having different ideas, the aim is to bring the group together and to very early on come up with an idea that they will move forward together. The second people start working in silos, that's when you start getting this frustration, because very often people get frustrated when they have an idea, they bring it forward, they do work with it, they produce work, they spend time, and then someone comes along and is like, no, this is not it, we need something else. And everything is thrown out. And that's again where we see that everyone needs to be aligned early on and needs to move together towards the same objective, because then you don't have these frustrations that create a lot of disruptions during co-working and working together, collaboration.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
So do we have any more questions from the audience? Oh yeah, so let's see. Do I have anything in mind? You can share your experience together, like all together, how working with Uizard has been, Florian. What do you think?
It's been amazing. It's been really a dream come true. So having your own company, we've been very fortunate to have we're 4 co-founders that get along very well together, and we have complementary skills on very different things. So everyone is an expert in the field that they're in, and we're just working very nicely with that. The team we've been able to build around this are all just as passionate as the founders, because everyone feels that we're shaping an industry moving forward. We're in a time that we're trying to help an industry which is only 25 years old or so, which has already changed 3-4 times over the 2 decades, and we see changing live in front of our eyes right now in the last 2-3 years. So being a part of this and being a part of being able to shape and have a say of how we can see this industry move forward is extremely rewarding.
Okay, interesting. And while researching about this project, do you really had some like, who is your biggest competitor? You know, as in, like, what do you think who could be the biggest competitor? Because you still have to launch your idea, right? If I've got that right.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting one. Early on, what we've done, so when we first started playing with the idea, we put a proof of concept out. We saw that some other people have started to build something similar, and they're working in the back and they're trying. So we had the small company in Romania, Teleport, that tried to build something. They're not quite there and being able to replicate it. But so what we've seen, since we're the first with the AI generation, that our competitors are more the traditional tunings that are out there. So what we can see is very much like I mentioned before, the Sketch, the Figma, and the likes, but these are all very much more for the designers, as I said. So for these product manager, since it's such a new category, we don't have the direct competitors, but you have other toolings around that can help very much. You can think of a Marvel app to create prototypes very fast, a proto.io to create prototypes. So there is a few tooling there that are made to make it easy, but we're still the first with the AI wireframe conversion.
Yeah, okay. As far as I remember, there was one application, I really don't remember the name, but then there was one which actually converted the bioframes into like the pictures, but not maybe using AI. It was more like it just, rather than it just used the original bioframe as in the pictures, and basically it was connecting all the pictures and the dots. So that was also good.
To create a prototype, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So instead of digitalizing them, you could put hotspots on top of them, and you could create a prototype indeed. Yeah. So yeah, that one exists as well.
Yeah, I think that's a US-based company, if I'm not wrong. But yeah.
Exactly.
That's
but
cool.
a little bit more on why I jumped into this. While coming from the non-technical side of the word, having done a background in international business and management, I've toyed around with learning HTML and CSS myself to get somewhere. But very fast got frustrated about how long this takes, how the process is set up, and this wasn't where I wanted to spend the time. So then I jumped into making my own website with WordPress, with Wix, with Squarespace, all these hobbyist platforms where you can get something fairly quite fast. And that really sparked the interest in creating products in general, jumping into trying to create a company to help front-end developers create these websites with HTML and CSS, being able to drag and drop in a very easy manner components, flipping it and doing this. And then while building that, a friend of mine had built the original AI that was converting user interface to code right away. And we decided to join forces to move this one forward, to try to revolutionize this way. But that really sparked the interest, just always interest of the industry, but coming from the non-technical side of it.
Okay, that's cool. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, one question though. Is it possible, have you thought about any other use cases for your tool, except just product managing? Or, it's quite interesting and could be very universal to use it in other fields.
Absolutely. So right now it's very much apps and websites. We've seen in the platform people playing around with the tool to build a quick game, yes, no questions, I would rather, I would not, but these are still all very much application and apps. We've had questions very early on would it be possible to use the exact same technology to, for example, digitalize an entire architect drawing made out of pencils? In reality, the way AI works is that's not possible. It would be the way we've trained our model is very much with recognizing the components that are present within these apps and websites and this wireframe language. Being able to just transform a drawing of anything and recreate this digitally would need to be built completely differently. So for us, the tooling, we are very much, and we will very much focus moving forward into this app and websites, and just continue on making more abilities, we're making it easier for the product managers and the likes. But AI will come along to also revolutionize a bunch of these other industries. This won't be us, but I wouldn't be surprised that someone will come along and will be able to digitalize a architect drawing into a 3D CAD building. A lot for the also 3D printer files, STL files that are all being created. These could also be done first with a sketch, transformed, and then moved upon. So I think in the near future, and this has to do with the computing power reaching the level that we can start training these models, working on it, and we can use AI on a wider range. I think we will see them very soon come to light.
Great.
Victoria, you were asking something?
No, I was going to say if the questions are over, that's also fine. It's early morning, I know.
Get a coffee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feel much more awakened right now.
Did the talk work as a coffee? Did I pass the test?
Oh, it did for me at least. How about you, Miko? Did it really help you out?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's good. So I think that's all. Thank you so much for the amazing presentation, Florian. It was really nice. I
You're
really
very
enjoyed the
welcome.
talk.
Thank you for having me, and thanks a lot. And great to be part and to have the opportunity to present to the community.
Thank you so much. All the best for your future endeavors. Hope your product is amazing.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Have a great day, everyone.
Have a good